overall leaders, MAFRAY of the Volvo Ocean Race, haven't had the best leg so far. Now it is their turn to cross the finish line. But if you've been with us here today as we've been following all the arrivals, you will know that as all the boats came into the finish line, it was Vestas 11th Hour Racing that has had a little bit of a problem. They were involved in a collision on the way to the finish. All of the crew on Vestas 11th Hour Racing is reported to be safe. There is limited damage to the boat, which the team is still assessing, and the team has not requested outside assistance. There is no information at this time on the condition of the other vessel. Of course, everybody involved here at the Volvo Ocean Race, and of course fans around the world, all of us are desperate to know the latest information. But at this time, it's clearly a serious situation for the team, and it's absolutely critical that the race organisers provide the facts and not the speculation. When there is more information to add, you will find it on the website and our social media channels. And if we hear about it, you will find it on this show as well. Meanwhile, at the moment, it is MAFRAY coming into the finish line. I've got Conrad Coleman with me. Conrad, overall leader. At times, there were sort of rumours in the office here about from their incredible performance in the Southern Ocean that, well, if they get another strong leg win, they're going to push themselves out of contention with everybody else. They're going to be so far ahead. But it's this slip-up, I mean, accident with that one cloud has kept the race alive.
Well, yes, but let's not call it a slip-up. This team has been driving as hard as ever. One of the most incredibly talented teams with lots of experience on board, and for many people on board this boat, this is their 5th consecutive team. So, whereas some of the teams have got sort of individual crew members that have been coming back for 5 times, the core nugget of this crew has been together for such a long time. So clearly it's by no accident that they are the overall leaders. They pushed hard, and I think that the fact that they pushed hard and they've got such incredible talent and they're coming home in the middle of the fleet, I think is proof of the fact that anything can happen out at sea. A couple of days ago I had a chat with Xabi Fernandez, the skipper on board, and he said that it just did come down to bad luck. But also bit of questionable judgment on a couple of strange calls that we saw. Juan Villa, the navigator, pushed them up on the Australian coast to try and get around a little bit of a funky ocean current shortly after the start. The inside option didn't pay, so they sort of got shelled out the back. They were down in 5th place. They worked way back up to the leaders, and then they got chucked back down again by one big black cloud. So we often talk about snakes and ladders, that sort of infamous child's game where you can walk up gain places by walking up a ladder, or lose them by sliding down a snake. That has been epitomized by this team, constantly moving backs and forwards within the fleet.
Well, and then the interesting thing I want to draw the viewers' attention to here, Conrad, is we were seeing a couple of jibes, and from the previous shot with the virtual eye tracker, you could see that they could have, they've lined themselves up now for, by my count, 2 jibes across the finish line. They could have almost done it in one, but they are racing to avoid the hole, possibly, that we saw Team Axonabel sail into with no wind shortly before, because time, your overall time, does count for something.
It does. You can see actually on the shot, if we can stay on it, there are lots of high-rise buildings. There's a little bit of a mountain there, and we have seen every single boat that has been approaching this line has actually taken an entirely different route to the finish line. They've all sort of stayed up on that shore a little bit longer, and they've sailed all into that wind shadow, and then done sort of this sort of miserable, painful jibe towards the end to finally make it across the line. It's really interesting to see that this is the only team that has done things differently so far. You're exactly right. And the reason for that is maybe they saw the hole and have been sailing to avoid it. And the other one is, remember, they're chasing time because there are a number of bonus points that are spread out throughout the legs. A couple of bonus double points in the Southern Ocean and the North Atlantic, for example. There's a bonus point for being first around Cape Horn, so that's going to come up in the leg after next. But also there is a bonus point for the elapsed time. These guys are in the lead. They've got the shortest elapsed time at the moment, and I think they're looking to try and preserve that.
And it was a colossal lead going into this leg, but now, unfortunately, with this finish that we're seeing, the Spanish team at the moment, they're going to be 4th to cross the line. Obviously, Vestas 11th Hour Racing have retired after their collision with a vessel 30 miles off from the finish. But now the Spanish team, MAFRAY, coming into the line. We can see the red flat buoy just at the bottom of your picture. That, I do believe, one end of the line. So we're seeing MAFRAY now bearing the bows away, easing the masthead code 0 to dip through the line. They managed to keep themselves in breeze all the way through. Very sensible sailing, adding up all the seconds because they know that that could make the difference. And Xavi Fernandez and his team now across the line, concluding leg 4 and into Hong Kong. And Xavi Fernandez, the skipper, famously not somebody on the helm. There he is in the middle of the boat on the left.
Well, that's right. It's really interesting for us because we've got such a privileged perspective on this race to be able to talk with all of the skippers at regular intervals and also look at all of the video and photos that come in. And Niall and I have often commented about the fact that Xavi, in the words of his own team, sort of leads from behind. He leads by example. Then the way that he sort of bucks up morale and keeps the team going is that he makes it his personal mission to outwork every single person on board that boat. Whereas earlier we saw David Witt. He chose his crew for their personalities and then was working on turning them into the sailors that he would wish to have. Here, it's a nice mix. You've got an incredibly deep, talented crew who have come together for over years to work together really, really well. And then it's Xavi that's driving them from behind. So it's interesting to see the different strategies.
And no crew changes going into this leg. When we'd seen so many crew changes in Melbourne and before as well, MAFRAY remained consistent.
And I've heard rumours that there are none coming up for the future leg as well. So clearly, very, very happy with the dynamic on board, the way that they've put this team together. That means physically that they're very, very well prepared because there'll be no breakdowns, and mentally and emotionally the team is gelling really well. And if the recipe is working, don't muck it up.
Well, down on the water, Nick Bice, the manager of the Volvo Ocean Race Boatyard, is alongside the boat in the rib, watching all the festivities and all the celebrations as they come across the line. Great performance by MAFRAY in the Volvo Ocean Race. This is the first time that we've seen them off the podium and slightly struggling in the later stages. But Nick, great to see them across the line, and their morale, it doesn't look dented.
No, definitely not. There's certainly a lot of backslapping and a few little hugs going on there right now. And I mean, they should be extremely proud, and let's not take anything away from any of these teams. Whilst I'm sure as a team they'll be slightly disappointed with the 4th position. In these boats, the Volvo Ocean 65, just due to the one design nature, if you're even 1 mile behind it, it's very hard to make those miles up. And if a team like MAPFRE can't do that, that just goes to show how well matched these boats are. And they were just on the wrong side of a cloud at one stage there, which didn't help them out. But yeah, let's take nothing away from them. They worked very hard, and they're well deserving to give each other a little pat on the back and have and say well done to each other. So well done to MAPFRE.
And Nick, what do you think about their approach into the finish line? By our eyes, they were the only boat that didn't sail into the wind hole.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a lot more wind down this end of the bay, though, at this point in time, compared to what the other teams had. We had a change of tide a couple of hours ago, and we're seeing much more wind at the finish line than we've had throughout the evening. As they come into the entrance of the bay, there's a few little fluky spots. They did get caught a little close to land at one point in time, but managed to get a nice little gust to come out and come flying down to the finish doing 14 or 15 knots.
All right, and so we've got a few more boats coming in. We've got Team Brunel, we've got Turn the Tide on plastic. Nick, do you think the conditions are lined up for a quick finish for those two teams?
Yeah, at this point, what I'm observing on the water, I think we'll see them come through without any issues at all. To make things interesting, it would be a bit of fun if there was a few holes around, but I think they'll get through pretty unscathed. if the current conditions stay as they are. And I think as the day slightly warms up, the chance will be high.
Oh, we've just lost Nick, but we will bring him back when we can. Conrad, just one thing to note here. These are sort of typical scenes that we always see. The boats cross the finish line, the arduous task of putting all the sails to bed. They are getting on with it, though. This seems to be very quick by my mind.
Yeah, they're cracking on. They're hungry. They're thirsty. They can... Clearly motivated. You've got Blair Tuke there looking into the stern camera. What he's doing there is clipping on the halyard from the front of the mast towards the back of the boom so they can start dropping the main down. And you're right, they're the fastest team that we've seen do this.
Well, actually, we can just see at the bottom there, just underneath Blair Tuke, just playing around with the clue of the main, we've got Xabi Fernandez, skipper of MAFRE. Xabi, welcome to Hong Kong. It was a tough leg with a lot of obstacles, but congratulations on the finish.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I guess we're very happy. We just finished here in fourth position at the end, and let's hopefully we can have some rest and start thinking the next leg.
After such a short stopover in Melbourne, I mean, you talk about rest. This is absolutely your chance to recharge your batteries. What is the energy like on board at the moment?
Well, not too bad, I have to say. I think we've been, the leg physically hasn't been the toughest either. But as you say, it's been short in Melbourne, and a tough leg now with a tough result as well for us. So, we are okay, but looking forward for a good rest, good food, and put the boat in good shape as well. It is in good shape, but let's see if we can put it even better, like it was in Alicante, and be ready for the next leg.
Well, Xabi, I mean, you talk about the road ahead that you've got left in the Volvo Ocean Race, and with that cruel hand of you guys being stuck in the doldrums just that little while longer compared to the other teams, it never seemed to get you down. Your morale on this boat seems bulletproof.
Well, hopefully we know how the things can get wrong so easily in the doldrums. I'm not gonna say that it was bad luck, but I think we were punished very, very, very strongly, and we got too far behind. But it's no reason. I had some interviews asking already what we changed, and I think for us it's no reason to think we don't have the best crew to make the boat faster and the best navigator to get us through the best way. So we have to keep going exactly the same we're doing till now, and hopefully we'll have a good chance in the next leg to do a good leg again.
Well, Xabi, you half mentioned it there, so I'm going to press you for the answer because everybody wants to know. The crew, MAFRE, who have made very few changes, are there any crew changes coming up?
I don't hope so. I think we are all in good shape, and of course we have 2 weeks here to see if we need to do any. But I think Nieti is recovering very well. He will be back in Auckland if everything is fine, even if he will be joining us here in Hong Kong. And the rest we are all in good shape, so we will keep going as we are.
All right, Xabi, thank you so much. I can see you making your way into the harbour. We will let you carry on. Well done. Welcome to Hong Kong.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, scenes on the water there as MAFRE, the overall leader in the Volvo Ocean Race, completes leg 4. It's not the result that they would have wanted. However, it does still see them on the top, just not with the points advantage that they had before. Xabi Fernandez and his team are going to make their way to the dock. We're hoping that we're going to be able to bring you their moment when they step ashore. But we've still got 2 boats still out on the water. We've got Team Brunel and Turn the Tide on plastic. So we're going to take a short break, but we're going to leave you with some incredible images from leg 4 captured by the onboard reporter on board MAFRE, the overall leader in the Volvo Ocean Race.
Kind of struggling to hold on to the back of Festus. It's all going to change in 1,000 miles when we get to the Solomons anyway.
most frustrating for us last night was probably Exxon Nobel from 2 miles behind us.
MAFRAY just about to park onto the dock now. They are overall leaders in the Volvo Ocean Race. However, this leg not going their way. They crossed the finish line for their first finish off the podium. And the crew, family and supporters are waiting to get them in. And also we are waiting to hear from the sailors themselves. Our reporters on the dock, ready to receive them and ready to ask them some of the key questions about what happened in this leg. Conrad Coleman is with me. Conrad, it was not a great leg for them. However, it was one move really, wasn't it?
Well, it was. I mean, we've had a lot of, and I really appreciate this from the team, we've had a lot of candor from them where they've talked about the fact that, you know, they've pushed really hard, approaching the exit of the doldrums, they just got clobbered by this massive, massive cloud. Race experts did a really good job of covering that moment, putting up annotated satellite images, and just the fact that this boat got held out, got beaten up by that cloud. Team Brunel and Turn the Tide on Plastic just shows the fact that, you know, from the top of the fleet to the back, everybody got hammered. Really was the luck of the draw. But frankly, 4 legs, first time off the podium, I'd take that.
Yeah, absolutely, and still very much at the top of the overall leaderboard. It's not going to be the lead, the colossal points advantage that they would have wanted and fans of MAFRAY would have wanted. It certainly keeps the race alive. Confirmation of the final scores will have to wait a little bit after all the boats have finished. However, what we do know is the lead that MAFRAY had has diminished slightly. Now, we can see Xabi Fernandez there on the standing on the side of the boat, being welcomed ashore, and we are just waiting to hear from the sailors themselves. The sails all down. I've got to say it was a very rapid pack up of the boat. Sophie Sisek, also alongside Xabi Fernandez, the very accomplished bow crew, who's been pretty indispensable since this boat left the dock all the time ago in Alicante for leg 1. And we've got crews and microphones on the pontoon. So we're going to be hearing from the sailors in just a moment. But Conrad smiles at the moment for the teams. And like you said, actually, yeah, they take that. It's a decent performance so far in this edition.
Well, just remember how down Dongfeng were, for example. At the arrival in Melbourne, they were crushed. You know, there weren't so many back slaps going on. Not so very happy about life at all. These guys, they're even worse, in quotes, than they were then. But it's still smiling, as we can see here from Xabi.
Still smiling and now sharing some words with the reporter. Let's listen in.
Xabi, it's great to see you. I'm going to have to here because the microphone doesn't work. So Xabi, congratulations and welcome into Hong Kong. Now, I've got a couple of questions for you. Now, this is the first time in this edition of the race that you guys have been a little bit at the back, but you arrive in here with huge smiles, and every single video that you've put absolutely amazing. What is it and how do you keep that morale up in your team? Really something a little bit special.
Well, I think things are going very well, and not because one leg didn't end up like we wanted. And you know, I think we knew what happened as well. It's been quite, you know, tricky and random. So we know we're doing things well, and we, you know, it's no reason for not being happy as we were before this leg.
And it could have worked out a lot worse, because I know that you guys were cheering on Scallywags, weren't you? So it could have worked out a lot worse if any of the other teams that were further up did come up on the first and get that extra point on the podium, right?
Yeah, of course. We know that the other boats are going to be in between, you know, Dongfeng, Asbestas, a lot of times, and it's been very good for us as Scallywag managed to be on the lead and you know, take this extra point and not be in between in the others. So it's a good result for us at the end.
Now, last question. Might just need to move down here, Shabby. Sorry, a bit of problem with the sound. Last question. Do you feel a little bit like you wish you'd kept a little bit of a closer eye on Dongfeng Race Team in the doldrums?
I don't think you really can. We were keeping an eye on all of them, but you know, at the end in the doldrums, the breeze, you drift with the breeze you have, and it's very hard to go where you want to go. And you know, we find ourselves in a very tough situation where we really didn't want to be, but you know, shit happens.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. Welcome to Hong Kong. Nice to see you, Shabby. Now I'm going to see if I can grab Rob before he heads off. He's behind me. Rob is here.
Very good. You back for the race, are you? That's very good.
Good. So I'm joined with Rob here, Rob Greenhouse, who is the watch captain for MAPFRE. It's great to see you. Welcome to Hong Kong, Rob. Now, I may well have interviewed your sister a little bit earlier on today, who of course came in first position, the navigator for Song Hong Kai Scallywag. How is the rivalry between you guys? Do you feel just incredibly proud of her for coming in first place and jumping on in Melbourne?
No, I'm super pleased for Libby and for the whole Scallywag team. You know, it's great for them to win into their home port here, and hopefully Libby will continue with the race and hopefully bring them a few more good results.
Now, I want to talk to you about the continuity of your team, because it is something that it feels a little bit like you guys are not changing all of the time the different sailors on board, and it feels as though that is kind of key to your success. Do you feel that?
I think a good team is important, and you know, we've kept everyone the same so far, and it's worked well for us. Obviously, this last leg hasn't gone perfectly, but that's not due to people being tired or anything. It's just difficult, and you know, I think we'll keep the same, keep chipping away, and come back stronger next time.
Is there anything that you would do differently, kind of looking back retrospectively?
I think every boat would say there's 100 things they do differently. I think in retrospect and hindsight are very easy. So, you know, yeah, we did what we did, and ultimately we paid the price for some of it. And unfortunately, after the doldrums, there was no real way back. So that's life.
Well, welcome to Hong Kong, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy a lovely drink with Libs tonight. Nice to see you, mate. Thank you very much. So we're going to stand back and let the media do their thing for a few minutes now, and then we are going to do the prize giving.
Scenes on the dock there for the Spanish team, MAFRAY, the overall leaders in the Volvo Ocean Race, having concluded leg 4 from Melbourne to Hong Kong. There are 2 boats still on the water, still racing. Team Brunel, who have now pushed ahead of Turn the Tide on Plastic. We are expecting Team Brunel to finish in around about an hour to an hour and a half, and then about an hour behind them, it will be the turn of Di Kafari and the crew on board Turn the Tide on Plastic. So the last 2 teams, an hour and a half away, and then an hour again for Turn the Tide on Plastic. MAFRAY on the dock, leg 4 concluded, a fantastic leg for all the teams, and Xavi Fernandez for the first time not being on the podium, but still plenty to smile about, with fantastic sailing and a tough competition on the water.
Kind of struggling to hold on to the back of Festus. It's all going to change in 1,000 miles when we get to the Solomons anyway.
Most frustrating for us last night was probably Exxon Nobel from 2 miles behind us.